Imagine stepping onto your porch, the July sun warming your face as you take that first perfect sip of coffee. Your peace shatters the moment you look down. Your prized tomatoes are skeletal remains. A relentless army of aphids scales your peppers like they've already won. That squash plant you nurtured from a tiny seed, ravaged overnight. You reach for the chemical spray, a desperate ritual I repeated for 20 years, only to watch the invaders return every single time. Then, I discovered the hidden mastery of Lancaster County's Amish farms. They've grown lush, pristine harvests for 3 centuries without touching a drop of poison. Today, I'm revealing the ancient companion secret they use to vanish hornworms and aphids naturally, and why your local garden center hopes you never find out. I'll be honest with you, I used to think of gardening as a battle. You see a bug, you kill the bug. It makes sense, right? But that's the trap. We're always reacting. When you grab that spray, even the organic stuff, you're doing a lot more than just wiping out the aphids. You're overriding the whole natural system. You're killing off the ladybugs, the parasitic wasps, the lacewings. You are literally firing the free labor that keeps your garden self-sufficient. Out in the Amish communities, they have a guiding principle for this. It's a German word, Gelassenheit. It's hard to translate perfectly, but in the garden, it basically means yielding to the natural order. It's about surrendering that desperate need to control every single leaf and trusting that there is a balance already built into the design. We aren't here to fight nature. We are here to let nature do the fighting for us. Think about the absolute freedom in that. No buying expensive products every season. No relying on store-bought solutions. Just smart, traditional design that actually works. And that brings us to the first real step, the place where almost all of us get it wrong. I know I did, for a long time. We see a bug chewing on a leaf, and we treat the leaf. But the Amish understand that real defense doesn't start on the foliage. It starts down in the dirt. Here is the actual science behind what they've known for generations. When you have healthy soil that is just rich and crawling with microbial life, your plants actually grow stronger cell walls. They produce higher concentrations of natural defensive compounds. Biologically active soil literally makes your plants tougher. It's not folklore, it's chemistry. A weak plant sends out a distress signal that pests can smell. A strong plant, it can take a few hits and keep right on growing. So, here is exactly what you need to do. Every single spring, before you plant anything, spread 2 to 3 inches of well-aged compost across your beds. Work it right into that top 4 to 6 inches of soil. If you can get your hands on aged horse or cow manure, even better. That's what the Amish use, and it creates this incredibly diverse soil microbiome. Now, if you're up in zones 3 through 5 with a shorter season, get that compost down early as soon as the ground is workable. If you're down in zones 7 through 9, get it done in late winter so that biology has time to wake up. If you do this consistently, you are going to notice something amazing. Your tomatoes, your peppers, they'll have thicker stems. The leaves will be a darker, richer green. And when the pests do show up, your plants will just shrug off that minor pressure. They won't collapse, they'll just keep producing. This next step is where we have to unlearn almost everything we were taught about setting up a garden. If you picture a standard American backyard plot, what does it look like? It's neat, right? It's organized. You've got all your tomatoes in one row, all your beans over there, your cabbages lined up perfectly like soldiers. I did this for years because it looks tidy, and honestly, it makes harvesting those profitable crops a lot easier. But I want you to think like a bug for a second. To a cabbage moth or an aphid, a long row of just one vegetable is basically an all-you-can-eat buffet, and you've just hung a glowing neon sign pointing right at it. The Amish don't plant like that. They mix things up on purpose, and the reason is beautifully simple. Pests don't find your plants by looking around. They navigate by smell. They follow the specific chemical signals that their host plants release into the air. So, if you want to protect your harvest without spraying chemicals, you have to drown out those signals. Entomologists call it olfactory confusion. We're going to scramble their radar by interplanting. Let's talk about exactly how to set this up. Take your tomatoes. For every 3 to 4 tomato plants you put in the ground, I want you to tuck in 1 basil plant. Put it right there in the row, maybe 8 to 10 inches away from the base of the tomato. Basil puts off a heavy, aromatic scent that actively repels aphids, whiteflies, and those massive, devastating tomato hornworms. The pest literally gets confused, loses the scent of the tomato, and flies right past your beds. Now look at your brassicas, your cabbage, broccoli, and kale. You want to plant dill or cilantro right between them, spacing them every 12 to 14 inches. When those herbs are putting on leaves, their sharp scent repels cabbage moths. But here's the real magic. When that dill or cilantro eventually bolts and flowers, those tiny blooms act like a massive beacon for predatory wasps. So you are pushing the bad bugs away and pulling your defensive allies in, all at exactly the same time. And you cannot forget the borders of your garden. You need to frame your beds with French marigolds. Not the giant African ones, but the compact French varieties. Space them 10 to 12 inches apart along the edges. Above ground, that sharp, peppery smell deters squash bugs from ever landing. Below ground, their roots release a natural compound that actively suppresses root knot nematodes in the soil. It is a full-spectrum defense shield, and all you did was plant a flower. That brings us to the third step, and this is the one that completely flipped my understanding of what a garden should actually look like. For a long time, I honestly thought a healthy garden was a garden with no bugs in it. I was dead wrong. The Amish know that a garden with zero insects is a dead garden. You don't want no insects, you just want the right insects. Think about this. A single ladybug can eat up to 50 aphids in one single day. One ladybug, imagine having hundreds of them patrolling your beds. You want to invite the assassins. You want to build an environment where they do the heavy lifting for you, so you never have to reach for a bottle of spray again. To do that, you need to create what's called an insectary strip. It doesn't have to take up a ton of space. Just dedicate a 2-foot wide strip right along the edge of your garden. The goal here is continuous blooms, from the first thaw of spring all the way to the first frost of fall, giving those beneficial predators a constant, reliable source of nectar and pollen. Here is the exact layout you need. Right at the front of that strip, plant sweet alyssum. It stays incredibly low to the ground and blooms like crazy all season long, acting as a living, flowering carpet. Right behind it, in the middle of your strip, alternate yarrow and dill plants, spacing them about 10 to 12 inches apart. And then at the very back, plant some fennel. It grows tall and provides excellent architecture for these beneficial insects to hunt and shelter. But here is the golden rule, and it's the hardest one for us modern growers to accept. You have to let go of the idea of perfect neatness. Keep a little wildness around the edges of your property. Leave a patch of clover unmowed near your beds. Stack a small pile of stones or old logs in the corner. Why? Because perfect bare dirt manicuring is essentially hanging a massive no vacancy sign for the very creatures you are trying to attract. Ground beetles, spiders, lacewings, they all need a place to live, a place to breed, and a place to hide from the midday heat. Give them a home, a tiny bit of untamed habitat, and they will absolutely protect your crops for free. This next step is one that feels incredibly old-fashioned, and honestly, that is exactly why it works so well. Every Amish gardener I've ever spoken with talks about this routine like it's just a normal part of the day, no different than making breakfast or pouring that first cup of coffee. It's not dramatic, it doesn't cost a dime, but it might be the single most effective preventative maintenance you can ever do for your homestead. We call it the morning walk. Here is what it looks like. You give yourself 15 to 20 minutes early in the morning, long before the heavy heat of the day sets in. You aren't just out there casually admiring your tomatoes, you are actively looking. You have a small bucket in your hand, filled halfway with water and a quick squirt of dish soap. You walk your rows slowly, turning over the leaves, running your eyes along the stems, connecting with the actual rhythm of your garden. When you get to your tomatoes, you are looking for hornworms. They are massive, but they camouflage themselves perfectly against the green stems. So, don't just look for the worm, look for their dark droppings on the leaves below them. That's your dead giveaway. When you walk over to your squash and your cucumbers, you want to gently flip those big leaves over and check the undersides. You are looking for little clusters of bronze-colored eggs. Those are squash bug eggs. When you see them, you don't panic and you don't run for a chemical spray. You just take your thumbnail, scrape them right off the leaf, and drop them into your soapy water. And when you check your brassicas, your cabbages, and broccoli, you are scanning for those tiny green caterpillars tucked into the folds of the leaves. Drop them in the bucket. Done. I know it sounds almost too simple, maybe even a little tedious at first, but here is why this matters so much. Most severe pest damage doesn't happen overnight because of one or two bugs. It happens because a small, unnoticed population was allowed to explode completely unchecked. A pair of squash bugs can lay hundreds of eggs in a single week. By the time you actually notice the damage and reach for a bottle of pesticide, you have already lost the war. The math of the morning walk is simple. Catching 2 hornworms on a quiet Monday morning prevents 20 hornworms from stripping your plants bare by Friday. You are stopping the problem before it even has the chance to become a problem. Now, that brings us to the 5th step, and this is probably my favorite technique because it is just so clever. It makes you smile once you finally understand it. Instead of trying to put up an invisible wall to keep pests out of your garden entirely, we are going to invite them in on purpose. We are just going to send them to the exact wrong address. This is called trap cropping. The concept is brilliant. You simply plant something that the pest loves even more than your main crop, and you use it entirely as a decoy. Let's look at how the Amish do this. Their absolute classic trap crop is the nasturtium. Aphids are wildly attracted to nasturtiums far more than they care about your profitable beans or your peppers. So, you plant a ring of nasturtiums right around the outside edge of your garden. The aphids will fly right past your vegetables and cluster thick on those flowers. And once that trap crop is loaded with aphids, you just leave it. Why? Because now you have created a massive free buffet for all those ladybugs and lacewings we talked about earlier. You let your newly attracted assassins feast on them. If you struggle with flea beetles turning your young eggplant leaves into Swiss cheese, plant a row of radishes about 2 feet in front of your eggplants. Flea beetles vastly prefer the taste of radish tops. They will congregate there first. You sacrifice those radish greens and your eggplants stay perfectly clean and untouched. And if you grow any kind of pumpkin or zucchini, you know the absolute heartbreak of the squash vine borer. To beat them, you plant a couple of blue Hubbard squash plants in the far distant corners of your garden. Blue Hubbard is an absolute magnet for borers and cucumber beetles. You aren't trying to harvest the blue Hubbard. You are actively using it as a sacrificial decoy to draw the destruction far away from the crops you actually care about. There are no sprays here, no endless daily labor. You plant the decoy once, and it works for you all season long. The pests do exactly what nature designed them to do. They just do it somewhere you don't mind. Now, let's be completely real for a second. You can do everything right. You can build up the soil. You can interplant perfectly. You can invite all the beneficial assassins, and you can walk your garden faithfully every single morning. But sometimes, nature just throws a heavy season at you. The pest pressure gets intense, and you look at your profitable crops and realize you need a little direct intervention. When that happens, you do not reach for a synthetic killer. You need a deterrent. This is the emergency kitchen spray I learned from an Amish neighbor out in Lancaster County, and it is the only thing I use when my back is truly against the wall. It takes about 10 minutes to put together, and you already have everything you need sitting in your kitchen right now. Take 4 to 5 cloves of garlic and 2 hot peppers. Cayenne works perfectly for this, or whatever hot pepper you happen to have on hand, and chop them all up. Drop that into 1 quart of warm water and just let it sit and steep overnight for at least 12 hours. Let those oils really release. The next morning, strain that mixture through some cheesecloth straight into a standard spray bottle. Now, here is the secret weapon for this mix. Add exactly 1 teaspoon of plain liquid dish soap. Not heavy detergent, just plain, simple dish soap. That soap does 2 critical things. First, it helps the potent garlic and pepper oils actually stick to the leaves, instead of just rolling off into the dirt. Second, it physically breaks down the protective waxy coating on soft-bodied insects like aphids, drying them out completely. When you apply this, I want you to focus heavily on the undersides of the leaves. That is where the pests are hiding from the heat. Make sure you only spray this in the early morning or late in the evening. Never spray this in the intense, direct midday sun, or that soap will absolutely burn your foliage. This spray doesn't nuke your garden like a chemical bomb. It simply makes your plants taste and smell incredibly vile to the bugs. They pack up and they move on. Just remember to reapply it every 5 to 7 days, or right after a heavy rain washes it away. Before we wrap up, I want to give you one last bonus hack. It's a technique I picked up from an Amish family that I have quite literally never seen mentioned in any modern gardening book, and it is brilliant in its absolute simplicity. When you are finally moving those young, vulnerable transplants out into the garden, the ones you babied from seed all winter, take an old toilet paper roll or a paper towel tube cut into smaller sections. Gently slip that little cardboard tube right over the top of the seedling, sliding it down until it sits around the base of the plant. Push it down about 1 inch deep into the soil, leaving about 2 inches sticking up above the dirt like a tiny little fortress wall. Why does this matter so much? Cutworms. Cutworms are these devastating little grubs that crawl along the surface of the soil in the dead of night, and they will cleanly sever the stems of your young plants right at the soil line. You wake up the next morning, and your precious seedling is just lying there, dead in the dirt. That little cardboard collar stops them cold. They physically cannot bite through it. And the most beautiful part of this entire system, over the next 4 to 6 weeks, that cardboard will naturally biodegrade and melt right into the soil. And it happens at the exact same time that your plant's stem finally hardens off and becomes tough enough to defend itself. Zero plastic, zero waste, zero chemicals. Just quiet, practical wisdom protecting your garden when it is at its most vulnerable. If this changed how you think about keeping your garden productive and self-sufficient, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Tell me what you've tried. Tell me what worked. And if you want more of these deep dives into traditional wisdom, hit subscribe. Thanks for spending time with me today. I'll see you in the next one.